Tonight's class on Tibetan Buddhist shamanistic Lamaism is about Chenrezig. But since it's Christmas time, it's also about bodhicitta, which is, citta means mind in Sanskrit. Bodhi means clear or unemotional, unconditional, unemotional, non-judgmental. That's what the word bodhi means. It's a takeoff on the word Buddha, which means the patterning of light through space as your mind, which is all about energy. So when we do these classes, we bring them under the auspicious nature of healing. And what are we healing is our judgmental mind, which is, in a word, reactive. And when we say reactive, it means it's programmed or pre-programmed to react to what you are essentially entertaining through your body and through the thought process of the judgmental mind about whatever arises that you are sensing or thinking about. And this is universal. This judgmental mind, or we call it the drama mind, is everybody has. So it's called the relative mind. And then when we say mind, we're talking about a programmed aspect of our consciousness, very similar to the computer or your cell phone or your TV. It's programmed. And the programming can be changed. So that's what Tibetan Buddhist shamanistic Lamaism is all about. And some people confuse Buddhism with other traditions such as Hinduism, Sufism, and so forth. And the confusion comes because they're also reactive. They're in the conditioned state. So they're really not dealing with the unconditional or natural state of consciousness, which we call Buddha nature, or in the human condition, maturity, evolving into maturity as a human. They're more entertaining the idea of something that's going on outside. And yes, they do internalize it, and yes, they do get results. And the results in the healing mode are mostly symptomatic. They treat the condition according to the symptoms arising of the condition. And then if the condition or the person's conditioning doesn't change, then the symptoms re-arise again. In the Buddhist tradition, the Buddha taught 45 years of how to treat the cause of this conditioned mind and how to treat it not only symptomatically, but also to cut the root cause, cut the cause of it. Well, the cause of it is simply the mind's idea that you exist as an entity separate from the universe. And that subject-object dichotomy produces this state of conditioned existence, which we call the reactive mind. So what to do? Well, the Buddhists had to walk around and give 45 years of teachings on what to do, because there's so many different aspects of the human condition. We're all equal, but that doesn't really treat the situation of we're all different. How are we all different? Well, we all have different ways of being. We all had different previous lives. We all have different tendencies, and so forth. So understanding this paradox of yes, we're all equal, and yes, we're all different, is why the Buddha took 45 years to give all the different antidotes. And they deal with the human condition as to the pain and suffering state, which that makes us all equal. But also he gave the how to treat these immense number of different tendencies that each one of us possess individually, how we develop through many, many lifetimes, and now we're bringing those tendencies into this life. But more importantly, what are you going to do when you leave this life and go into the next life? And people really don't want to be morbid about this, but it's a fact that we're impermanent. We have this short-term existence of 50 to 100 years or so, and then we're out of this husk we call a body and into the next life, which is the spirit world, which is, we call it the universal world. Yes, our world is universal as much as it's a planet in a universe of trillions of other planets, solar systems, stars, galaxies, and all of that. But this next life is more than that, because you're taking your emotional tendencies, your subjective mind, into that condition as you are in this condition. So if you haven't started to deal with this emotional problems, got the root cause of that, then that will carry forward into your next life. And that's not helpful. Actually, that's counterproductive because it increases the suffering in your next life. You think this one's, a lot of us think this one's a pit. Well, of course it is for most of the humans on the planet, but not all of it. And my teacher very simply said, overcome this judgment call of identifying with what you are sensing and what you are coming in contact with and thinking about as good or bad, high or low, or unknown, having unknown qualities. So we're going to do that. We're going to deal with that from that basis of the judgmental mind. Excuse me. Now, what do we use as a basis for all of this methodology? What is the starting point? Well, the ultimate healing technique is loving kindness. Applied three ways. To yourself, of course. Well, that leaves out a lot of humans. If you don't think that's true, watch the news or go on Facebook. Then extend it to others. Well, that leaves out a lot more humans. And again, all you have to do is look at the social media or look around you. And then towards our environment, Mother Earth, this planet that sustains it. And if you get that loving kindness idea and direct it towards your own situation, yourself, just as you are, just as you function, then to others you're coming in contact with, and of course, the environmental world around you, that's about half of treating the cause. So if you want to know to treat the cause of pain and suffering, loving kindness is the ultimate antidote. But that's a little bit beyond most of it. Then from the basis of loving kindness, then you start to have what is called concern for the well-being of yourself, others, and the environment. That's called compassion. Now, compassion has flavors. Actually, loving kindness has two flavors, too. Loving kindness has the flavor of the subject-object dichotomy, or what we call conditionally applied. You do this, you do this for me, fulfill this favor, and I'll do something for you. See? And that pervades all of our social intercourse worldwide. But there's another flavor, and that's called unconditional love. And this is a learned love. Actually, your mother was a good example of this, or should have been. The perfect mother. She brings you into the world, she gives you a chance to be something, and then takes care of you and gives you a few pointers of how to survive and become kind and considerate or helpful. But this unconditioned love means it's equally applied, or I should say evenly applied, to everybody and everything. And when you start to do that, the judgment call kind of doesn't work. Because if you're applying it evenly, you can't say bad, you can't say good, you can't say supernatural, even though people believe that things are supernatural, which is not true. There's no such thing. The universe doesn't work that way. Things are lowly, low life and all that. No, it doesn't work that way. And there's a state of unknowingness, which is not true. Oh, that's what the Buddhists think. So if we're Buddhists, we follow that theme. Then when you go to the compassion, it's also applied unconditionally, but more importantly, altruistically, which means evenly applied to everyone, including yourself, of course, because there's no such thing as separation, and the environment. That's the foundation. And if you get that, then you want to move into the path of the Buddha. Not to say that the other traditions are somehow, some way valid, but as I said before, they're symptomatic. They don't treat the root cause. So then you say, okay, I'll try out this thing called Buddhism. Well, first of all, that isn't what the Buddha was. That isn't what the Buddha taught. Buddha didn't know Buddhism. That's a late term that identifies a religious, like our organization, for instance. What it is a practice of awareness that deals with the unconditional situation, which is painful, symptomatically, and as I said before, the cause, but also starts to raise the awareness immediately just because of the foundation of unconditional love and altruistic compassion. Your awareness in the mind moves to another level automatically. And it's the only tradition that does that. And I know because I practice them all. Okay, well, you could say maybe I left out a few, but since I was a very young person to now, I'm endeavored to learn what really works causally and systematically through the various isms of the planet. And it's about this state of awareness, and once you start to move out of the drama mind, the unconditional state of I-me-mindness, and move into this other level of awareness, this other aspect of your consciousness, have them come in. Then they both start to increase. One lessens and the other comes up. So when we start to move into this other state of awareness, we need to take refuge. And why is that? Because you need to have a guide, a teacher, that's already functioning as a human being in that state of awareness and knows how to give the antidote specifically for you and your situation stuck in the drama mind, which we call the reactive mind. So we're going to take refuge. And our refuge starts with the altruistic motivation. And we're going to read this. In order to attain enlightenment for ourselves and none of the sensory beings, our mothers, we now all together take refuge and offer prostration. We go for refuge to all the glorious holy lamas. We go for refuge to all the idams who are the deities gathered in our mandala. We go for refuge to all the Buddhas, those who conquered mind and gone beyond. Go for refuge to all this supreme Dharma. We go for refuge to all the noble Sangha. And we go for refuge to all the Dakinis and Dakinis who are the protectors and defenders of Dharma, all possessing the eye of transcending awareness. To the Buddha, Dharma, and this supreme assembly, we go for refuge until enlightenment. May I, through merit gained from practicing the six bodhisattvas of perfection, accomplish Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Now, taking these three prayers to heart, through memorizing them and also applying them to every method of Tibetan Buddhism, your support and your understanding increase. And they're equally important. So the motivation differs from all forms or other traditions of what they call religious practices. And in our tradition, we call it a religion, but it isn't. If you say you're using this to identify yourself as what you're doing with these practices and intend to go to heaven, the spirit world of heaven, celestial realms, in the next life, then that is not Tibetan Buddhism. And a lot of people are confused about that because they call Buddhism a religion. And of course, our 501c3 here in Hawaii operates under the tax code like that. But this altruistic motivation, this idea that you and every being in the universe are going to come to maturity in the human condition. That means all the animals and all the spirits that are in that condition are going to come back into the human condition and reach maturity. Well, that's an infinite number. But if your mind entertains that idea, then you move beyond the confines of the conceptual mind into the universal mind of infiniteness, and it's not supernatural. So that's the first. Then the support of the Buddhist teachings and the people who practice and teach, that all Buddhists have. But when you move into the path of skillful means, the Lama as your guide, knowing all the symbols of what they call the skillful means of practice, the methods that move right into the other creative state of awareness as an antidote to the reactive state. And that creative state cuts the cost. And it does it in a nice way. Not all at once, so you go into shock, or you get it so fast the meanings escape you. No, it moves into it in a manner so that as you progress with this constantly increasing creative state of awareness, the reactive state lessens on its own. You don't have to be concerned about that. It just happens. And I attest to that from 42 years of practice. Okay, so I've witnessed it. And it worked. You know, Lama Rinchen said he had a hard time believing all of the Buddha's teachings because he either didn't understand them or they weren't happening to him. But now he's 87 years old and he says, now I totally agree with the Buddha and everything he taught. Well, I'm coming to that conclusion. I'm about 99.9%. I always keep this what if in the back of my drama mind, but it'll go away. Then, when we say the Bodhisattva prayer, that means now you're a Bodhisattva. Well, that's an entirely different way than anybody else. If you say you're a Bodhisattva, how many Bodhisattvas do you know? Family, friends, lovers, business associates, people that hate you and so forth, the human race, the animal world, the spirit. How many Bodhisattvas do you actually? Not very many, you know. And so, but when you become a Bodhisattva, Bodhisattvas come to you. And like me, I never went to India. I never went to Tibet. You know, they came here. We're out here in the middle of the Pacific. Little tiny dots of land, you know. And became my teacher. I got it. It's really nice of them to do that. But that's how Bodhisattvas function. And when you call a Bodhisattva's name, that Bodhisattva, if it's in the other world, not in human form, it immediately arrives to you. And it doesn't matter if it's a human, like my teacher, Lama Tenzin, when he died, he said, don't worry about it, I'll be sitting on your right shoulder all the time. If you need extra help, just call and say, hey, Lama Tenzin. Huh? What? Sounds like English. What? Hey, what? So that's this methodology. I'm going to chant the altruistic motivation, and then we'll all chant the refuge prayer of the support and the Bodhisattva prayer of the 6 Bodhisattva disciplines that we do. And you want to think that everybody in the universe is chanting this with you. And I'll chant the first one, and we'll chant the next 2 together. The first one is for the spirits that inhabit our body and the world around us. Da dong go wa nong pe da dong yang pe sen jan tong che du di ne yu che ji si chang chu neng po la chi pi bar du. All den lama nong pa nong la chao su chi yo yedam cho kor gi la so Nam la cha su chi yo san che chong den de nam la cha su chi yo nam pe chur nam la cha su chi yo Tao te gen du nam la cha su chi yo Hao Gango Jo Kyo So Ne Cho Ye She Ki Shen Dan Dem Pa Nam La Cha Su Chi Yo. Sanjay Chodam Chopi Chodam Ram Chanchu Bardu Dadi Chakshi Yagi Jinso Jipe Chodam Ki Chodam Sanjay Sanjay Chodam Chopi. It's always good when taking refuge and doing sessions of practice, short or long, that at the end of the session of the prayers or the chanting or the visualization or whatever you're doing, be quiet. Just for a few seconds, maybe a few minutes. Allow the energy, physical, the speech energy of your voice, the thought energy of your mind to penetrate your heart. Take it to heart. And then if you were thinking that all the beings in the universe were doing this with you, you can entertain the thought that they're all taking it to heart. Because in your mind they are. Now dealing with this universally, according to the fact that there are infinite humans, infinite animals, and infinite spirits taking birth in this universe, that situation is your motive. You know, yeah, it's real, it's actually true. Actually. But when you imagine it to be true, then the imagine and the actual kind of come together. Where? In you. And this is why you want to move more and more into the loving kindness, compassion aspect of your heart chakra, which is the foundation of the practice. Then, if you move from the path of the refuge, bodhicitta, and the altruistic motivation into some kind of method, whether it be symptomatic method like we use for medicine, healing the body, healing our thought process, and so forth. It is also you treating the cause of the condition of pain and suffering. And it's not only doing it for you, it's doing it for infinite sentient beings in your mind. So in your mind, they're all okay. But in the relative world, what everybody thinks is the only game in town, the drama world, they're not. And that's where the action of the imaginary process starts to deal with that. And that's why we have a Dharma center we call a healing center. Because in a small way, we're dealing with a limited number of humans and animals and spirits here on the Comey Street on this little hick town island of Kauai out in the middle of the Pacific in a small way. But in an immense way, we're dealing with it in our consciousness. And there's no separation when it comes to consciousness. Consciousness is universal. Everybody has consciousness. And you can actually say everybody has awareness, it's just that some of them are more expanded than others. And in some cases, they're so expanded that they're not even here in the John world. But that doesn't mean they don't come into the John world. But when they do, they come with that expanded state of consciousness, and it's really neat when they share it with us, which is what the Buddha did. When it comes to sharing, we have to practice. Individually or collectively, you have to do the process. You have to entertain the process in such a way that all of what's going on out here is the reason for the practice. And some of that can come into you and be the method of the practice. And that's why we have these very powerful energy practices of the 3 lights meditation and the 5 elements healing and so forth. So we'll start with that tonight. Now the 3 lights, all the lamas use it. They either use it as a practice for meditation discipline, or they use it as the transmission method of all of the Buddhist teachings of the Sutra and Tantra tradition of Tibetan Buddhism into individuals who want to learn those healing methods, like tonight. So the best way to do it is sit with your back straight on a cushion or on a chair and have your eyes open, at least half open, and settle your gaze to the light energy of space in front of you, not to an object, not to the tip of your nose, out here. Mouth closed to start with, hands in a comfortable position on the knees or in the lap. Head slightly tilted forward. And bring your focus to your breath. And with your focus, activate your imaginary process of that which visualizes in the mind, makes pictures. And as you inhale, imagine the air, which is composed of 5 elements, coming into your lungs as white light. And you visualize that white light energy as the life force support energy of the elements which create everything in the universe in you. Then the second step is to visualize the extraction of that energy passing through every cell in your body as red light. And then you combine those two and go to the third breath, which is the exhale, out your nose to space as blue light. So it's a very simple application of light as energy applied to your breathing. And the purpose is to bring your focus and your imaginary power together in you. Inhale white light, fill your lungs. The energy of the elements pervading your body. Red light flashing through every cell in your body. Then you combine those two out the nose as the healing breath to space available to your environment and everybody in it. After you practice this technique long enough so that it becomes second nature, then you turn the sound off. Then once you've acquired this through practice, then the second part of the practice is to bring the three lights together with the absence of focusing on the breath. So you take your mind off the breath, bring the three lights together and form a particle of energy as small as you can imagine, a tiny star or light in the center of your chest, creating a bindu, a chakra, an energy center that connects to the infinite capacity of light throughout boundless space. And you allow that particle to interact with all of the light energy of space. And that becomes the basis of whatever practice you do. The physical basis. Then from this state of basic space, you activate your imagination by again focusing on this particle in your heart center and imagine it to grow to a tiny clear light sphere. And with that, you enter the situation of this universe. As it increases in size, you imagine it to be one of the symbols of the five elements for your own healing situation. And tonight I'm going to use the element fire, radiation. And that symbol is, for us, the four-sided pyramid with a base of red light. I'm showing you this symbol, but you imagine it in your heart center about the size of your thumbnail. Keeping your focus and imagination together, visualize it to move out in front of your body and up before your eyes, 2 feet in front. Next, imagine it to grow in size so that you can see your physical form just as you are, sitting inside this pyramid of red light, radiation, fire energy. You can make it like as large as a teepee or a room you're in, or just outside your fingertips, your choice. When I say outside your fingertips, your reach, outside this reach. You don't have to entertain a lot of thought process about what's going on. You just accept that the elemental nature is psychically producing the healing effect necessary for you, for your body. Now, in some traditions, they don't go any further in this, but in the Bodhisattva tradition, whatever is good for us, we want to share it with others. So we take the visualization of the pyramid, red pyramid, and expand it in size to completely enclose this island of Kauai, including the surrounding ocean and sky, or the town or area where you are doing this practice, if you're watching. Then meditating like this, you visualize it to increase in size to completely enclose Mother Earth, including her atmosphere. So that the shared effect is produced for the billions of humans and infinite number of animals and spirits that inhabit Mother Earth. Then expand it to completely enclose the solar system. Expand it to next step to include or enclose our spiral disc-shaped galaxy. Then move beyond the boundaries of the conceptual mind and merge the symbol with boundless space. And just relax and stay present in this universal situation. Everything arises from this dimension and returns to it. So with this practice, you are entertaining that reality. Then return with the four-sided pyramid, the radiation fire symbol, to enclose the galaxy. Decrease it in size to enclose our solar system. Smaller and smaller to just enclose Mother Earth. Then much smaller to just enclose Kauai, or the area where you are practicing. Then bring all that energy into the pyramid healing process, again with you sitting inside, just as you are. If you're laying down, standing, or walking while doing this practice, it's okay. Then finish by bringing it back in front of your eyes, 2 feet in front to its original small size. Drop it to heart level and bring it into your heart chakra. Condense it in size to a small sphere, and then finally to the original infinitely small particle like an atom. merging with the boundless energy of space itself. Relax and enjoy this dimension of freedom. Taking the mother energy of space to heart. Return with your awareness to in front of your eyes into the area where you are practicing. Talk nice and drink tea. Each one of the 5 elements, starting with the earth, the water, the fire, the air, which is a half sphere of green light, and space, white sphere, cannot be separated. If you have one, you have the other 4. The universe, in all of its dimensions of manifestation, functions this way. That's a scientific fact. And in the Tibetan tradition, it is the basis of all of the sutra and tantric practices. I learned this in the Taoist tradition and the American Indian tradition and the Hawaiian tradition as practical or functional applications applied to not only my body, but to other situations that I involve myself in, such as farming, gardening, recycling, sex, and so forth. And everything always got better. It improved the situation. But the reason I really liked it is because the results required less physical effort on my part. It's kind of like the mind is the boss and the body follows the mind, and the speech follows the mind. So once you get the mind to be the boss, it does the work. It functions in the way that is appropriate and in a way that is beneficial if the basis is loving kindness and concern for the well-being of others in your environment. That's a big if. So that's the fact. And this 5 elements practice and this 3 life practice, just as we did them now, to be taught to anybody, any age group. We do this in the elementary schools, the high schools, and the universities here in Hawaii. And in some cases, it's taught to businesses. In some cases, it's taught to social groups through the web. But however it's presented, it's practical. It's appropriate. As long as you have the heart of compassion and loving kindness. The next level or state of involvement with the mind is take it into a dimension of what we call skillful meaning. Now, this is really what took the Buddha a long time to present, because he had to deal with the Hindu tradition and the caste system of India and the Himalayan country, which is where he lived, mostly Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim, Ladakh, Kashmir, those. And as he came across different situations or groups or traditions, then he adapted his mode of teaching to these two, they're called the path of skillful meaning, for certain individuals, not groups, individuals. And when you use these, it's to deal with that individual's tendency, that individual's motivation for whatever they do, or however they are, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And at the same time, you're dealing with the modes of your existence as being impermanent. So you have that time factor to deal with. Then also, you must acknowledge that if you meet with this kind of remedies, methods, you are extremely well off. You've overcome 8 conditions to acquire this information or to meet with this awareness. And you also have 10 states of, I call them leisure. Leisure means you have the time to do it. I mean, most people are so preoccupied that they're addicted to their state of play or work or both together or intercourse with everybody. And now we have these cell phones and computers and televisions and all of that, that they don't know. They're distracted. And their reactive mind is increased. They're becoming more and more reactive. Less and less aware of the alternative. So you must acknowledge that you have a really wonderful situation. And you must understand its impermanence. More than that, to be a Buddhist, you have to believe in karma. You have to believe that there is a cause and an effect, starting with who and what you are. And this cause and effect is from previous lives to this life. And it is applied to everybody. And it goes in a very simple way here in Hawaii. They have this saying, what goes around comes around. But for us, it's more than that. It's understanding that these tendencies that are harmful need to be deleted from your consciousness and your lifestyle. They need to be deleted. And in their place, the energies of those are transformed into something that's more appropriate, internally and then externally. So the Sutra tradition and the Bodhisattva tradition moves from the Arhat of the Hindu tradition into this all-pervasive, altruistic Mahayana tradition. Maha means the great tradition that includes everybody and everything. That's a very limited application. And I say that because we have 8 billion humans on the planet, and they say we're going to 10 or more. I don't know, the way the environment is kind of working these days, if that's possible, but they say, but for sure we have 8 billion. Out of that 8 billion, maybe a few thousand can practice sutra. And then we have the Tantric tradition, which is the direct method, which is connecting the sutra to the awareness aspect of the mind as the only way to be. Now that's more limited. And when I say more limited, I mean maybe less than a few thousand. Few million maybe sutra tradition. Few thousand tantra tradition. And I'll give you an example. I've showed this one before, but tonight we're going to do the Chenrezig practice based on what I'm talking about. And it's the Dalai Lama. And he is a Buddha. He's a fully mature human being. Yes, he's a monk, but he also has a lot of responsibilities, political and otherwise, that makes him more like a householder. Because he has a monastery, and he has his tradition, and he has all these disciples all over the world, and so he has a lot of stuff. But through all of this, he practices the Dharma and disseminates it orally through the web and through what we call presentation. The one I'm talking about happened in Hollywood, California. And when he was there, he said, I would like to give a teaching on Tantra publicly. So everybody got together and they got the theater, I don't know the name of it, it's where they have the Oscars, awards and all that. And they put it out on the newspapers and the TV and so forth. And 6,000 people showed up, all dressed and nice, and paid the money to come in and see the Dalai Lama teach Tantra. And he's up on the stage and he's got these big, huge paintings, they call them tonkas, behind him, and Buddha statues, and lamas sitting up there. Very regal, unusual. And so he proceeded to give the tantric version according to the Tibetan tradition, which is based on loving kindness and compassion, which that's how he started to talk, just like we are tonight. And as the evening wore on, a lot of people left. And then the next day he said what he wants to present is his version of the Tantra, and it will take 3 days to teach it in the same theater. So the next day we all came back at 9 o'clock in the morning, and there was all the same setup in the Dalai Lama. At the end of that day's teaching, there was about maybe 800 people there, out of the several thousand that had come the night before. Then the next day, again, we went through the process, and maybe 300 or 400, and the last day, a couple hundred. And this picture that I have right here, this tanka, of Chenrezig and Red Tara was the theme. And they're shown in sexual intercourse, which is how everybody thinks of Tantra in the Western world. And what they are is the aspect of the 5 elements. And she's in red, so she's representing the fire element. And he's white, so he's representing what we call the clarity element. And they're in sexual union. And then he gives all the ramifications of how these two working together cause 5 states of awareness that occur in your mind. And he gave the mantras and the empowerments and everything, and passed out this little picture, which I had this one made to process at the Children's Museum. And it's Chenrezig holding a mala in his right hand and a lotus behind the back of the Dakini, the consort. And she has a knife and a skull cup behind his head. Okay, so she's not very nice. She's what we call the power aspect of the fire element, red Tara. Okay, this is why I did this one tonight. And he is the insight, or the ultimate state of awareness that has no judgment and knows how to apply that without any problem. And he gave the mantra. And the mantra was based on the one we're going to do tonight, Om Mani Padme Hum in Sanskrit, in Pali, or Om Mani Padme Hum in Tibetan Sanskrit. And her mantra was Om Pema Kondro Ram Hri Te, which is the aspect of the red Tara as a wrathful Pema Kondro, which means a Dakini, which means wisdom in action. But they're both wearing the 5-jewel crown of the 5 Buddha families, the 5 Dhyana Buddhas. So they're in sync. And not to bore you with too much information, but her seat elbow can be the space off sound for the fire symbol Ram. This is her white on a red background. And his is the seat elbow Hri. Now, with these two sounds or vibrations or patterning are to create a condition of ultimate awareness. But more importantly, how to use that ultimateness. That it's kind of like in the computer system we have PayPal or we have cryptocurrency, but what these use infinite sources of power that are not being used by all the computers on the planet. And there's no calculating that. They call it the cloud. Well, this is just like that, except this is available to you in your mind. If you can visualize yourself as Chenrezig, or even the way that Dalai Lama taught it over 40, in union with this radiant energy of the wrathful, most powerful female principle of radiation itself, or light. Okay, where do we start? The same way we started with the 5 elements. Or you can have a text, and the text starts out with the refuge and the Bodhisattva prayer, and then it starts to describe the deities in detail, what they're wearing and why, and so forth. And goes on to give the mantra recitation, and then it goes on to make offerings and all kinds of methodology. That's the sutra. And the sutra will bring one to awareness that. Because it's Mahayana, because it's in time moving you faster. If you have this potential and you have this good karma to access it. But it still will take maybe 3, 7, maybe more lifetimes. If you move into the Tantra aspect of the Sutra tradition, you really don't need the text. All you really need is the advice of the Lama giving you the empowerment through the 3 seed syllables, the white, red, and blue, applied to the breath of Om and Pa and Hum. But that kind of energy transmission has to have a workable situation where you're connecting physically to the Lama giving that man or woman that's giving that methodology as an empowerment. You have to have a connection. And secondly, you have to have some kind of clear idea of it's workable. You have to accept that. You have to, be somehow trusting, faith with their faith. But not blind faith. Just, you're going to take this on and do what the Lama advises and see what happens. That kind of thing. And so we're going to do that. We're going to do the Chenrezig in union with this particular Dakini, Dhamma Kondo, tonight as a practice in the Tantric method, which if you do this with the seed syllables and the mantra, say the mantra and visualize this practice this way, it not only has great effect, but you can accomplish maturity, or what we call Buddhahood, in the human condition in one lifetime. But if it doesn't accomplish in one lifetime, within, they say, maybe 3 or 4. But what's the hurry? This is an infinite time sequential situation. Time doesn't have a beginning, middle, or end. It has past, present, and future. But you can't find where it begins, you can't find a middle, and you can't find an end. So we're in that, in the mind. So you sit with your back straight. If you're laying down, it's okay. Standing's okay. And start to breathe the 3 lights as a transmission of the necessary energy applied to your body, your internal energy program that comes out in your speech, and then to your mind. So you inhale white light into your lungs, and you hear the sound Om. So this connects you to the infinite life support energy of light itself into your mental and physical process. Om. Then Ah is the energy of that being passed through every cell in your body, so that this internal radiation will affect your voice, your speech. Then the third is to exhale blue light out your nose as a combination of those first 2 as with the sound boom. So you inhale white light, you connect with the sound Om. The energy through your body, red light, you hear the sound Ah, which is the sound of energy activated. And then those 2 combine to produce the healing sound Hum, which is universally applied to everyone and everything throughout space. Do that. Inhale, Om. Absorption breath, red light, Ah. Both together out the nose, blue light to space. Boom. You breathe like this and you start to settle into a state of calm abiding. With this state, then you visualize the Lama in front that's giving the transmission. And see the three lights coming from the Lama's three places into your three places. Red light from the white light from the Lama's head into your head for the transmission of being the deity, or in this case, two deities. The red light energy from the throat is for the mantra and seed syllable vibration sounds of the deity. They're called the creation sound. It starts the mandala to form in your mind. And then blue light from the Lama's heart chakra into your heart, which is the transmission of wisdom based on loving kindness and compassion, applied to your thoughts, your tendency. The purpose being complete transformation of your body, speech, and mind into this illusory body practice of the mandala, of the tantric application of this deity yoga. The fourth aspect of this is the Lama representing the lineage and all the lineage masters, all the way back to Shakyamuni Buddha. That Lama man or woman visualize energy merging, physically merging into you. They say like water into water. And with this application, this empowerment, the three lights now appear within the central channel of your life force as white light in your head, red light in your throat, and blue light in your heart chakra. So you visualize that. Then you collect these three spheres of energy, the white light with the Om, moving down the central channel into the red light with the Ha. These two in union down into the heart chakra with the sound Om. And you become Chenrezig in union with, in this case, red Tara. The lotus dakini called Pema Kondu. Then you see the seed syllable in her heart, either Vam or Ram, and the seed syllable in his heart, either Om or D. And these become Shri. Now this Ram and Shri are in union. So she, as the red tar with the skull, cup, and knife behind the head of the male deity, Chenrezig, with the Shri in his heart, holding the lotus and the lotus behind her heart. The lotus, it symbolizes compassion. The mala in it symbolizes tantra, the power of the vibrations of everything, including your speech, as the method and the motivation together. They both have 5 jewel crowns. They're both dressed in silks and jewels as their quality. They both have 6 kinds of jewelry. They're like gods and goddesses, which is what all our human condition in maturity is, not supernatural. All those qualities assigned to gods and goddesses, we already have these. And so you become that. And then this union, this state of tantric union, you project it to your mother who created you. Just like that. So she appears in front of you as the Lama, Chenrezig, and Tara, Pema Kondu. Then you apply this to all the lovers, friends, relatives, everybody you have karma with this life. Then expand it to the whole human race. Then all the animals in the ocean and on the land, infinite in number. And you build this mandala in your mind and expand it to space, because that's the home of all the spirit worlds, which we break into 4 categories. All the celestials, all the war gods, all the deprived spirits, and all the demonic spirits, all now become Chenrezig and Pema Kondo in union. And this causes the heart mantra of the Dakini to arise first. And this radiant energy is the radiant energy of everything you sense and think about. Everything that appears in the universe is this radiance or fire energy. Your thoughts and all sensual perception. And her mantra is Om Pema Dakini Ram Free Pay. So you say 1 round of that first. And this establishes that program in your mind applied to all animals, humans, and spirit. You're visualizing both together, but you're just saying her mantra. Om Pema Dakini Ram Free Pay. 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 Now this is the empowerment for you to use this mantra. There seeds all the Ram or Vam. Ram is better. And this is the prerequisite to not only this practice, but all the tantric practices, peaceful and wrathful deity, specifically wrathful deity practice. And I'm going to use the Damaru and the bell together to cinch it, to call the Dakini. Om Pema Dakini Ram Free Pay. And with that established as the consort energy of your practice, then you move to the Chenrezig, which is the wisdom method part of your practice. And these, as I said before, holding a mala, which is symbolizing the Sutra Tantra tradition, and a lotus, which is the loving kindness and compassion as a basis. Then you see the free in your heart center is Chenrezig. So you have the Ram in her heart center, the free in yours. And now the 2 mantras work together. And the Chenrezig looks through both heart centers. And it's moving clockwise with the letters facing out. And as it connects the two deities, you sound this mantra. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. 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 Om Mani Om Shri Om Mani Padme Hum Shri Om Mani Padme Hum Shri Om Mani Padme Hum Shri Om Mani Om Shri Om Mani Padme Hum 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 Shri Mani Padme Hum Shri Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. Now this talker has that mantra on it. Om Mani Padme Hum, with the Shri in the center. The Shri is the Buddha field of Amitabha Buddha, which is discerning awareness or the power to subjugate humans and spirits and affect even animals in their transition through rebirth back into the human condition. So that's the real purpose of the Chenrezig. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. 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 Om Mani Padme Om Shri. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. Mani Padme Hum Shri. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. Padme Hum Shri. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. Now you're in union with the Pema Kanda, the red Tara, the lotus Tara, in the most powerful aspect. And so all of that energy of whatever your thoughts you have or whatever you essentially connect to is purified, transformed. Then the mantra of Mani Padme Hum applies to the 6 realms of sentient being, brought to the awareness of their own pure nature and how to use it. That's the Shri. That's Amitabha Buddha world of discerning awareness. And the application is to subjugate humans, animals, and spirits. That means to bring them into your mindset, Buddha awareness, or the creative mind that everything is illusory and based on vibration. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. 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 Om Mani Padme Then with your mandala in place, you as Chenrezig in union with Pema Khandro, applied to infinite sentient beings, filling your mind with these illusory body visualization. The accomplishment is penetrating your situation so that you as Chenrezig and Pema Khandro are treating the cause physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually of the judgmental mind that causes pain and suffering. You're cutting the root, both from the outer perspective and the inner perspective of loving kindness and compassion, equally applied to infinite beings, sentient beings, and the environment they find themselves. Then you gather these infinite beings in your mind into you and Pema Khandro as the central mother-father energy, illusory body, tantric energy program, like rain into a lake, where they stream into you in infinite numbers in every direction. Then when you can see this illusory body projection, you and Pema Khandro in union, in the clear sky of your mind, which means unconditionally, which means non-judgmental, then dissolve the Pema Khandro into the Chenrezig and both of them together into the mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. Then the mantra, starting with the Om, syllable by syllable, disappears into the Shri. This is the energy creation sound of light and patterning of everything in your mind, thoughts, emotion, and in the outer world of the five sensual perceptions and the five elements. Then the Shri, in a five-color sphere of light, disappears into space. No center, no boundary, no meditation, no judgment, no time. Relax in the present timeless space of your own awareness. In the sutra, this is called the Dharmakaya, the all-pervasive nature of mind. In the Tantra, it is called Voidin, no mind. Mahamudra. This second stage of silence is called the Mahamudra, or accomplishment stage of tantric practice. Is actually absolutely necessary at every phase of sutra or tantric practice. But it's more stressed in the tantric tradition than in the sutra tradition. And when you reappear from this state of voidness or Mahamudra, or what we call the Dharmakaya, the all-pervading nature of your mind, you reappear as the deity of your choice, which is called the Yidam, either female or male, peaceful or what they call the power aspect or wrathful. And then in the worldly life's activities, this mantra you keep it going. This constant chatter of the blah, blah, blah of your mind about this and that is transformed by that mantra. So if you're saying Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, and you go into worldly activities, then that is applied to the stress or whatever situation that you find yourself in worldly activity. Being the deity overcomes the constant jumping, what we call the uncreative mind, the reactive mind, that responds to the body's sensual perceptions or the thoughts of this and that, this and that, this and that, this and that. Constantly, night and day, in your sleep, awake. So those two working together start to give you the power over those impractical applications. And what happens is the outer conditions start to shift more and more in your favor. Now, Abby and myself, we've been using these practices the past year in skillful ways to compensate for conditions caused by others of what we call sorcery. Not that it could harm us, but it gave us the opportunity to increase our practice sessions using these deities to subjugate the spirit energy of the obstructors that were somehow set our way. It's the best way to put it. And so we use this mantra to subjugate. Now, subjugate in Tibetan Buddhism means to bring them into your retinue. Oh. See, everybody thinks we're destroying these obstructor spirits. We want them to be on our side. We want them to be our friend, helping us. Now, there's some of those obstructor spirits that were sent to us that didn't want to be subjugated. So what do? This is by the training of our lamas, by the way, is we send them back. So whatever their intent was by the originator, who was binding them and sending them our way, if they didn't subjugate them, go back to where you came from. But with the Bodhisattva loving kindness and compassion going with them, to whoever was the originator of that curse or hex or negative prayer, that's what you could wish, to in some way interfere with our situation, physically, mentally, emotionally, and of course spiritually. So this is where the power of the deity based on loving kindness and compassion of the elemental deities as Tara, or as the method deities as Chenrezig, in all their various forms, Mahakala, Vajrapani, all the various Dakini, Pema Khandra, and so forth. That's how they work. And you don't have to do anything. You don't have to work. You just sit there. Oh, Pema Khandra, Ramri, Pema Khandra, Ramri, Pema Khandra, Ramri. I command you to subjugate whatever harmful curses, hexes, spirits, obstructive spirit. Either they join us in friendship or go back to where they came from. And with the good wishes, and when they go back to where they came from, that everything will be okay. Whoever did that. It's usually human. In fact, it's always human. Of course, the animals can hurt you. And of course, the gods of heavens may not pay attention to you. But these obstructive spirits come from the demigod realm, they come from the demonic spirit realm, and they come from the, we call them deprived spirits, which is 280 categories in that one, which we don't need to get into. But this is where you want to do your practice. Mm-hmm. Then next life, you're out of the body, and you got a full blast of all of this mapped out spirit world. You can see. And it's just a light show. This is just a light show. Why are you so emotionally involved with the light show? Do you get this crazy when you go into the theater? Yes, you do. If it's 3D, you go cry when it's sad, and you laugh and cheer when everything's okay in the movie. And if it's 3D movie, you duck when the arrows and spears are coming at you, just like you do out of the theater. But if you know something, that it's just an illusory, whether you have the glasses on or not, it's no big deal. It's a kids show. It's for the kids. You know? You don't start to judge it, good or bad or anything. You just go, wow. You know, it's your mind. Graphically portrayed on an empty screen in such a way that you go, tie me in my seat. So I'm just explaining some of the applications of this practice. So you be the deity in your post-meditation. You say the mantra, you hear that mantra going. Then the dichotomy of your mind is not going all the time. Blah, 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 blah. You can watch the TV, the most horrible stuff, the most wonderful, the news. You can look at your cell phone and you don't go, oh my God. Now I'm going to do the dedication prayer, which comes at the end of practice to sum this all up for us Bodhisattvas. This dedication prayer comes in 3 parts. I'm going to skip to the 3rd part. This dedication of merit is just as all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future have dedicated their merit. Until the attainment of maturity called Buddhahood, may I be born in good wombs or family. May I be free of illness, possess clear faculties, and conduct myself with morality, ethics, and introspection. May I be respected by all. May I fulfill all hopes and wishes of myself and others. And as long as I have not manifested ultimate awareness as enlightenment, may all harm from disease, evil spirits, harmful forces, humans, wild animals, demons, and the 4 elements become completely pacified. May my lifespan and merit increase. May glory and wealth become vast. Then may my renown as a Lama fill the sky. May all my activities of body, speech, and mind become beneficial for sentient beings. And may this ocean of samsara, judgmental mind, become completely empty. May I attain perfect enlightenment and the aspect of the creation faculties of my mind in full play all the time, day and night. And we say the dedication prayer at the bottom of the refuge sheet. Kewadi Nudu Dam, Shaya Chapo Chukirne, Joa Ching Maru Pam, Te Sala Koparsho, Sanjay Kusum Vimpai Jimla Dam, Choni Medu Vimpai Jimla Dam, Kendu Meche Dumpai Jimla Ki, Chitar Goma Mumlam Ju Shin. By this virtue of having realized Mahamudra, may I quickly establish all beings without a single exception in that state. By the blessings of the three bodies of the Buddha being accomplished, by the blessing of the truth of this Dharma being unchanging, and by the blessing of the wishes of the Sangha, that being unwavering, may this and all dedication prayers, Kashi prayers, be fulfilled. May all the Lamas have long life, good health, happiness, and prosperity. May all their wishes be fulfilled. May all beings be happy, free of suffering, established in bliss.